What's up, guys? It's Zach back with another edition of Video Game Pickups with Gaming Esquire. As you can see, the camera is still not HD or whatever you guys are hoping for. I mean, eventually I might upgrade, but for now, this is what it is. I have improved the lighting drastically by making a couple of changes. It shouldn't be as yellow as it was, so hopefully you guys can bear with me until I'm able to upgrade the camera a little bit. But I've got a bunch of stuff to show you guys that I've picked up over the last week and a half. So let's get right into it. First, I saw a guy with a bunch of PS1 RPGs that he was selling for $5 a piece, and then one of them he had listed for, I think, $25. And I picked up 1, 2, 3, 4 of these, and I got them all for $30. And that includes the one he had listed for $25. And it completed my Final Fantasy PS1 collection, as well as added another pretty awesome game to the collection. So let's go ahead and show you what they were. I've got Final Fantasy anthologies. All of these are complete with the box and the manual and everything, and they're all in good shape. Except some of the cases have some cracks in them, but with PS1 games, it's really difficult to find them without these stupid cracks. I don't know what they made these cases out of, but they crack about as easy as a piece of aluminum foil when you're stretching it out. It's just kind of ridiculous. But anyway, it's a cool game. It's got Final Fantasy 6, and I think it's got 5 on there too. So it's a cool set. And also I got Final Fantasy 9. It's the last of the numbered ones on the PS1 that I didn't have, so grabbed it. It's in really good shape as well. It's got one little nick up there on the top, but you can deal with that. It's not a big deal. And for $5, you really can't complain. And I got Final Fantasy Origins, which I had the disc for, but I didn't have the case. So now I've got an extra disc only copy if anybody's interested. Let that go pretty cheap. But solid game. It's got 1 and 2 on it, I think. Yeah, it's got 1 and 2, and it's got some theme songs and opening cinemas and stuff that they've added. And then finally, I got Dragon Warrior 7. This game's worth $40 or $50. It's probably in the best condition of all of them. It's actually in phenomenal shape. There's no cracks or anything. And this game, sells for $40 or $50, and I ended up getting it for about $15. Definitely a good pickup and a good deal, and it's a pretty sweet series. And on that same day, I also grabbed a couple NES games and a Super Nintendo game that a guy was selling on Craigslist. I think they were all marked $5 a piece. I got him to do the 3 for $10, so it was definitely a good deal. I got Super R-Type, which is an amazing shooter, just a classic game. Apparently, someone bought it at some store in '04 for $2.99. Obviously, that was before the retro gaming boom. And then I got RoboCop for the NES. I had this game, but the label sucked, so I wanted to get an upgrade, and it was reasonable. And he apparently paid $5 for it, or someone did at one point at GameForce. And that's definitely before the retro boom kicked up, because GameForce sells everything for stupid high prices. And finally, the best game that I got in the lot is Battletoads for the NES, and it was $5 from GameForce as well. But this game's worth about $20, and it's known for its ridiculous difficulty level, but it's a really awesome game. It's a lot of fun. I used to play it when I was a kid on the Genesis. Not that version, but the Genesis version. And then moving right along, I went over to Half Price Books and picked up a couple of things there, 2 clearance rack items and one that wasn't. First one is Castlevania Curse of Darkness for the PS1. It was $1. It's in great condition. It's got the book. The disc fell out, but the disc is in great shape too. And this game's worth about $15. Got it for $1. Great fun. I got Matt Hoffman's Pro BMX. I used to like this when I was 10 or 11 years old. It was 50 cents, so why not? And finally, I got Metal Slug 3. Love the Metal Slug games. It's worth about $10. I got it for 6. It's complete. It's for the Xbox. I just really enjoy these shooters. They're just classic shmups, and they're just a good time all around. And where did I? Oh, and then I also picked up a couple other things from half price books. One from the clearance rack and one not. From the clearance rack, I got the EA Sports Active Personal Trainer for $2. And I think it's worth 10 or 15. So definitely a reasonable price. And I'll never play it ever, but whatever. It's a decent price. Then I got Voodoo Vents. I think this is worth about $10. It was $4 there. It's complete as well. I don't know much about it. It just kind of looks sort of cool. You're a voodoo doll and you run around. Kind of looks like a Banjo-Kazooie type game, maybe. I don't know. But, it looks kind of cool. Oh, and then I picked up a first-party N64 Rumble pack for, I think it was $3.99. Yeah, $4, which is roughly what they go for. But I don't think I had a first-party Rumble pack, so for the price, why not? And then I went over to a game store that I don't go to very often. It's there's three. They have 3 different locations, and this particular location is one that I used to go to a lot when I lived in a different part of town, but I haven't been back in a while. And they have a deal where they do, if the games are $5.99, if you buy 2, they'll give them to you for $5 each. If you buy 6, they'll give them to you for $25. So I picked up 6 games that I wanted. I got Alien Front Online for the Dreamcast. This was actually a really cool tank combat game. It was the first game to really do online play right. It made it a lot of fun, and it was just a really, really cool game. And it's worth about $15, so I got it for just over 4. And then there's Armada, which is it's kind of like Asteroids, except that it's way, way cooler and way more advanced. It's got kind of RPG elements to it, but it's a really cool game. It was supposed to be craptacular when they released it, but it ended up being actually pretty sweet. It was also 4 and change, and it's worth about $15. Then I got 3 NES Tengen games that I didn't have, so I'm getting closer to completing the unlicensed Tengen set. I got Super Sprint, and Clax, which I had on the Genesis as a kid, and then I got Vindicators. So I picked up all of the black card Tengen games they had there, and I'd like to get. That's like my first mini goal with the NES is to pick up all the Tengen games. And then also picked up Where in Time is Carmen Sandiego on the SNES. It's worth $7 or $8. And then actually went over to this toy mall. It's called the Louisville Antique Toy Mall, and sometimes you'll find games there or something. It's one of those kind of like peddlers malls where that people just bring their stuff in and put it in a booth, and then they leave it there, and then you buy it up at the front altogether. But usually you don't find much stuff at places like that. But this place is really cool because it's dedicated to antique toys and sometimes games as well. And I found quite a few things there. I paid a little overpriced for a couple, got some for way under, and then got a couple for right at what they're worth. But let's get into what I found. The first game I found when I was walking around that caught my eye was Bomberman 64. The label's kind of messy, and it was $10, but it's worth about 14, so I was willing to take a gamble on it for 10. It's a cool game, and it's one that I didn't have, so it was, that was fine. And then I got Batman Returns on the NES, and it was $10. That's about what it's worth. But it's one that I haven't seen, and it's in phenomenal shape. Made by Konami, so it's probably a solid game. So, that was reasonable. And then I got The Three Stooges for $4.50. This is an awful game. Absolutely abysmal. It's got these mini games that are just stupid. But it was in a little side case there that had 2 other games in there, one of which that I picked up that I'll show you last. And I had a guy open it up and grab those 2 out, and they were pretty good finds. Then I got Balloon Fight, which is a black box game. It was $7.99, but it's about a $15 game, so it was definitely a solid find there. I hadn't seen it, so I was glad to grab that one. Then I got a rough label copy of DuckTales for $7. which that's a $13, $14 game, and I'd been looking for it, and I've been looking for it for a price that wasn't 15 bucks. So happy to pick it up. It's a really solid game, and it's a lot of fun. And then I got the Immortal, which is about 5 bucks, but I paid 6 for it. But you know, I hadn't seen it. The label's in good shape, and it's a really crappy game. I have it on the Genesis as well. I don't like it, but it's one I didn't have. And then I got a game that I really love on the Genesis, but isn't nearly as good on the NES. And I paid 5 bucks for it, which is about what it's worth. And that's Strider. It's a pretty cool platformer. I'm sure you've played it at some point on one system or another, but it's a lot of fun. Or it's a platforming beat 'em up basically. It's a pretty sweet game. And the last one I got there that I was really excited to see back there in the case, and I was like, wait a second, is that what I think it is? And it was. And it's not super rare, but it is an uncommon game, as Pat the NES Punk would say. It is the Addams Family Pugsley Scavenger Hunt. It's about a $20, $25 game. It cost me $4.50. Definitely a good pickup. It's in great shape. Was very happy to pick that up. And a little bit earlier that day, I went over to one of the other locations of that video store where I found what did I find there? I got a couple, or the Dreamcast games. I got those there. And then I went over to one of the other locations a couple of days later when I picked up this stuff. And what I got there were some pretty solid stuff for reasonable prices. First, I got Jersey Devil for 10 bucks for the PS1. It's a platformer, 3D platformer game that's, I mean, you're the New Jersey Devil. It's pretty weird, but it's kind of cool too. And it's about a $20 game, so I got it for about half the price. And then I got Metabots Infinity for the GameCube for $5. It's missing the manual, but the disc is in rather solid shape, so I was happy to pick it up. It's about a 10 or 15 buck game, so one I hadn't seen. I sure hadn't seen that cheap. Glad to grab it. And then these last three were also 5 bucks, and they were also worth, you know, quite a bit more than that. I got Siren for the PS2. It's like an eerie horror survival game. It's complete. It's worth about 15 bucks, and you know, for 5 bucks, definitely worth it every time. And then I also got Jet Set Radio Future, which is the sequel to the amazing Jet Grind Radio on the Dreamcast. It's complete. It's in solid shape. It's worth about 15 to 20 bucks. Someone bought it at Game Force for $5. There's a real theme going on of people buying Game Force games. So, and I'm buying them all back. Glad to do it. Sorry the color got weird there for a second. I'm not sure what happened, but just bear with me. I'm almost done. And the last game I got, I thought was worth, you know, 10, 15 bucks, but I wasn't 100% sure why or how I knew that. But I was right, and I picked it up, and glad to get it. It's Spy vs. Spy for the original Xbox. It's complete. It's complete. It's worth about $15. It's got, you know, classic Mad Magazine fun. It's a pretty sweet game. I tested it out. Nothing you'll play a whole lot, but it's good enough for a little bit of fun here and there. So, solid find. And the last thing I picked up, you know, I had a solid week regardless, but this was definitely a nice addition. I was on Craigslist today right before I left work because we're off for the next couple days holidays, so everybody was kind of taking it easy the last hour or so. And I saw someone list Skylanders Spyro's Adventure new in box for $30. And I shot her an email to see if maybe she'd take 20, and she said she would. So I ended up with a brand new in box starter pack of Skylanders Spyro Adventure on the Wii, and this sells for about $60. So very, very excited to grab this for this price. I don't know much about Skylanders except that one of the guys at work's daughter and they play it a lot, and he thinks it's actually really cool. So I'm going to need you guys' thoughts on whether it's worth me opening it up and about having the value of it just so I can get some play out of it, or if I should leave it in the box and display it. I know that if I open it up, I'm going to end up getting hooked on these things and start buying the freaking figures left and right just because they're They're actually pretty cool. You can't see it in here in this light, but there's Spyro in the middle, and there's this gun or trigger happy guy here, and then some kind of fish guy at the bottom. Definitely a cool find for that price, and was pumped to get it. But I managed to keep this video under we'll say under 16 minutes for a change. So thanks for tuning in. Thanks for staying the course with me. I promise that the video footage will get better eventually if I can, get a little money together to buy a better camera that I'm not spending on games. But otherwise, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, and above all, keep hunting.